Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into some really interesting sources you sent over, all about the new Chronoswiss Pulse 1 titanium watches.
That's right.
And the idea here is to really, dig into these for you, our listener, pull out the key stuff, the interesting bits.
Yeah, it looks like a watch that's doing something, well, something a bit different for Chronoswiss, actually.
So our mission, if you will, is to figure out what makes this Pulse 1 tick. What's unique, who's it for, and, what are the standout features design-wise and mechanically.
Sounds good. And it seems like a good place to start is that dial. They're known for the Regulator style, aren't they?
Exactly. Let's start there. For anyone maybe not super familiar, what's the deal with Regulator dials historically? Why Chronoswiss?
Right. So historically, regulators were all about precision. Think master clocks and observatories or watchmaking workshops.
Yeah.
They separated the hands, hours, minutes, seconds onto different pivots, different subdials usually. Made it way easier to read the minutes and seconds super accurately for, setting other clocks.
Oh, right. For regulation. Makes sense.
Exactly. And while other brands, sure, they've used them, Chronos really, really leaned into it. It became like a signature look for them for a long time.
Which is interesting because, as you pointed out from the sources, they have been playing with other designs lately, haven't they? Not just regulators.
They have, yeah. Which makes this Pulse 1 feel, well, like a conscious return, maybe, but definitely not just rehashing the past.
So an evolution, perhaps, taking that core DNA and doing something new with it.
I think that's a good way to put it. It feels like they're acknowledging the heritage, but through a very modern lens, trying to connect with today's tastes.
Okay, that makes sense. And that modern feel definitely seems to come through in the case design. The sources call it interesting and cool. What jumps out there?
Well, first off, the material. Grade 5 titanium.
Right.
So immediately you're thinking lighter, tougher than steel, more comfortable, probably better for daily wear, resists scratches a bit better.
And the size, dimensions seem pretty contemporary.
Right. Yeah. 41 millimeters wide, about 12.75 thick. And crucially, that lug-to-lug is around 46.3 millimeters. That should wear pretty well on a lot of wrists. Not too big, not too small.
Plus 100 meters water resistance. Practical.
Decent practicality, yeah. But the design elements are where it gets interesting, I think.
Like the bezel and crown, the sources link those back to their older stuff.
Exactly. You've got that coined edge on the bezel and the big aviator-style onion crown, classic Chronoswiss cues, definitely.
Right.
But the overall shape, the architecture, feels very modern, almost sharp architectural, as the source puts it. It's not a soft, vintage look.
And there's a detail about the crown itself, something unexpected.
Yeah, this polished concave section on the crown.
Okay.
Apparently, it's quite beautiful. It's those little refined touches that elevate it, stop it being just, heritage-inspired.
Gotcha. And this case flows into a new titanium bracelet, designed to look integrated.
That's right. An integrated bracelet, so it looks like one continuous piece from the case through the strap. The sources say it's comfy and looks original.
Which is always good to hear firsthand.
Definitely. Although the source also makes a fair point. Sometimes brands tweak bracelet designs a bit after the first launch based on feedback. It happens.
Sure, refinement. Okay, let's shift focus to the dial itself. The sources say it doubles down on the regulator idea, but adds complexity.
Yeah, it's not just flat. There's depth, layers. You can see different levels, different finishes. It gives it a real three-dimensional feel.
Sounds quite technical, almost over-engineered, as one source mentioned.
Maybe, but in a good way. It still apparently keeps that instrument vibe. Clear markings, hands designed for easy reading, which ties back to the whole point of a regulator.
So tradition meets modern finishing and construction.
Precisely. You get the historical layout logic, but executed with fancy modern techniques. Stacked layers, different textures.
Okay, but here's a twist mentioned in the materials, the seconds display. It's not a full circle subdial, is it?
No, and this is a key feature. It's a retrograde seconds display.
Explain that. How does it work?
So instead of going all the way around, the seconds, hand sweeps across an arc, in this case, a 30-second scale. Then when it hits 30, zip, it instantly jumps back to the start to begin the next 30 seconds. So it does that twice a minute.
Interesting. Why do that? Is it about accuracy?
Probably not about improving regulator accuracy in the traditional sense. It's more about, visual interest, animation.
Right, something dynamic happening on the dial.
Exactly. It's eye-catching. Plus, using an arc like that potentially allows for a larger, maybe more legible second scale than trying to cram a tiny full-circle subdial somewhere.
Okay, that makes sense. visual flair with a practical side effect.
Right.
What's driving all this? The movement.
Yeah, the sources identify it as the Chronoswiss Caliber C 6001. It's an automatic movement made by Regulator.
Les Jupiter. Okay. They're pretty well regarded, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Solid Swiss movement maker, so you expect good quality, good reliability.
Specs. Anything noteworthy?
It runs at 4 hertz, which is pretty standard, gives you a smooth sweep, or well, a smooth retrograde sweep here. And it has a 55-hour power reserve.
Pretty decent. Over 2 days.
Yeah, quite practical. You can take it off Friday, pick it up Monday, and it should still be running. And you can see it too, sapphire case back. The sources say it's nicely finished.
Good. Always nice to see the engine. So, putting this all together, who is this watch for? Who's the target audience here?
The sources paint a pretty clear picture, I think.
Mm.
It's for machine and instrument lovers, people who appreciate the mechanics, the engineering,
Okay.
and also people who like that connection to heritage, the Regulator history, but want something modern, maybe even a bit playful. That retrograde seconds adds that touch.
Right. Not just a stuffy historical piece.
Exactly. And they appreciate modern design that isn't just, minimal for minimalism's sake. There's complexity here.
The sources even called it a thinking person's watch for first adopters. What do you think they mean by that?
I think it implies someone who values the actual design, the functional aspects, the engineering choices, maybe more than just a big brand name or pure storytelling. Someone who sees the machine itself as the main event.
Interesting. And these first ones are limited editions.
That's right. 2 versions mentioned, the Pulsey 1 Sand and a Pulsey 1 Blue. Both grade 5 titanium, limited to 100 pieces each.
And the price reflects that exclusivity and the materials, I assume.
It does. Retail is listed at $13,300.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that positions it firmly in the luxury segment.
Absolutely. That price tells you it's for a serious enthusiast, someone who appreciates the titanium, the complex dial work, the La Jupere movement, and the limited nature.
Definitely. It's a considered purchase aimed at someone who gets what Chronoswiss is trying to do here.
So wrapping up this deep dive on the Chronoswiss Pulse 1, we've seen this really interesting blend, haven't we? Regulator tradition, but with a very modern architectural case, that integrated bracelet.
And that quite unique retrograde seconds hand adding that bit of animation.
Driven by a solid Swiss automatic movement from a known maker. It really does feel like a watch carved out for a specific niche, someone who likes history but lives in the now, aesthetically speaking.
I agree. It's definitely not trying to be everything to everyone. It has a clear point of view.
Which kind of leads to a final thought, maybe for our listener to mull over. When you see a watch like this, successfully blending, seemingly quite different things, traditional layout, modern execution, playful complication, how do designs like the Pulse 1 actually push watchmaking forward?
That's a great question. What other combinations, maybe unexpected ones, could work? What other bits of history could be reinterpreted in a totally contemporary way down the line? Makes you think.